welcome to the AI GovSec discussion series. I'm Aditya Chotia, an AI governance and security enthusiast. I've spent 13 plus years in the cybersecurity, IT risk and compliance space. This series exists because AI is moving faster than the governance frameworks meant to control it. Every week, I sit down with industry leads, with CISO security leaders, and everybody is worried. Everybody doesn't know what's coming. Hence, I've created this to actually understand and see what everybody is doing, what's working, what's not working when it comes to AI, governance, and security. No theory, just practical conversations about how organizations are navigating the gap between AI adoption and the controls needed to manage it. Whether you are a security leader trying to get ahead of the AI risk or a practitioner building in the space, this is for you. Let's get into it. Thanks a lot, Arif, for joining me on the AI discussion series. I know you have been so much busy in the last few weeks, but thanks a lot for taking out time. This really means a lot in coming from you in this discussion. I'm sure the audience will be really happy because they're going to receive in the next hour all the golden sort of insights from you. So would you mind introducing yourself, Arif?
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for reaching out. So my name is Arif Hameed, so it's pronounced Arif. I am the Chief Information Security Officer at C&R Software. We're an independent software vendor. We develop credit risk management software, primarily in the collections and recovery space. We're not the call center chasing you after on your debts, but we have customers in the banking, government, different industries, right, that are collecting debts. So we provide workflow software to ensure that they get what they need, right? I've been in the industry for almost 25 years in tech, and then over 15 years in security in different roles. Right now, I'm in a software vendor. I'm on the service provider side, but I've worked at large Canadian financial institutions, a global reinsurance firm, and I've also done a stint on a major credit bureau after their breach.
Amazing. Thanks a lot, Arif. And I want to use that experience and I want to just add that you have undersold yourself there. Like, you have so much of breadth of experience in there, which we'll try to explore in this podcast. So I think what I wanted to start with is some of your background, which you just mentioned. So if I'm not wrong, like, you have been CISO twice, like you have been 2 times CISO, right? Who has built cybersecurity programs from scratch, from nothing. At your previous companies, and if I'm not wrong, if your current employer as well, what drew you to sort of build the cybersecurity programs from scratch? And on the back of it, how does it differ from like inheriting one?
Oh, that's a great question. So for me, when I started my career, I did IT audit at a bank. Then I moved into IT risk, and then I moved into like a BISO, Business Information Security Officer. Then I moved on to a credit bureau, and I was heading customer assurance. So building upon that, what's next for me, right? And I said, okay, you know what? I want to head a security function, and I'm like looking at different opportunities and when you deal with legacy issues, there's a whole bunch of different challenges, end of life, right? And an opportunity arose where Munich Re is a global reinsurance firm based in Germany. They have over 900 legal entities. So it's along with the life and health and P&C space, they just have different arms, right? And an opportunity arose where they start up a digital insurance agency. And I'm saying, this is amazing. Coming on board, I'm not dealing with a lot of the red tape, right, at some of these large institutions, right? Building something out. I touched upon insurance, but this was a unique experience. And, building out your policies, procedures, hiring people, right? Dealing with vendors, just the level of experience is just golden, right? And it was an amazing opportunity for me to professionally grow, right? Okay, have something that you've dealt with. Obviously, the challenges are hard, and but that learning growth was just amazing, right? And I learned a lot building that, not just from the industry, but just having that opportunity. And then after I left Munich Re, I had an opportunity to join my current role, C&R Software, which is a divestiture. So this company has been in business for over 40 years. It was purchased by FICO, so this is all public information, in 2012, and then they sold it to Constellation Software, which is our parent company, which is a holding company. They took that firm in 2021. They had to obviously make changes, bring it over from the FICO environment over. But at FICO, they had a centralized security function. So 2023, I was brought in to build out that function. So this was like almost like coming in, you have a set of customers, primarily in the banking space. Security is top of mind. They have all these external audits, and there was an opportunity for me to come in, get the external audits back, right, and build out a program. Like when I joined Equifax, even though Equifax Canada itself didn't get breached, but all of its external audits were gone, right? Even though the U.S. entity got breached. So I helped get the external audits, certifications, as well as attestations back. So this was a new opportunity, but this was a little bit more challenging because, okay, at least you have those structures in place. But building something new is exciting for me. Like even I did the ISO 27001, but I went on with the latest 2022 or 2021 standard. Like that experience was golden. Like there's very few opportunities where you have that, where you're not dealing with legacy issues. And they also had management buy-in, because here's a company, it has contractual obligations, especially to these large banking customers. You have all these external audits, you need to get it done. So for me, this was a golden opportunity. I enjoyed it a lot. And it was a very client, customer-facing CISO. So the work that I've done at Equifax, and then also working at the other banks and insurance company, I understand financial services, right? For you professionally, it's an amazing experience. I got the post-breach experience at Equifax. I was not present when the breach happened, right? But this also added to kind of your own professional career, right? How do you grow yourself, right? And these are the challenging opportunities. Some would consider this a threat. Okay, this is very intimidating, but I said, this is a great opportunity for me, right?
Yeah. No. Great summary and great sort of summarization of what you have seen. And I 100% agree. As they say, right? If something doesn't break you, it only makes you stronger, which I think is sort of applies here. And just speaking on there, as you said, right? So I think based on the career span you have had is like you have done IT audits as well, you've done third-party risk management, you've done client assurances, or you have seen all of those areas. And obviously, you have now been operating as a CISO sort of twice in a company. How the journey has shaped your thought process in dealing with something what we are seeing like AI risk today, like how that thought process which you have seen built up over a period of time, how do you see AI risk from that thought process?
So AI risk is obviously evolving, right? With you have agentic, you have generative. When I started my career, I started off in software quality assurance. I pivoted into IT audit, okay, from testing software to now testing general computer controls. With the 3 lines of defense, it gave me that perspective. Then I pivoted into another role, that adjustment, right? And then going into like a business information security officer, from auditing. You're not allowed to consult, and now you're doing advisory work, right? And then from there, I shifted into third-party risk. Okay, so I missed the audit aspect, right? And then, I did internal audit. I never did external audit, or I didn't do my time at the external audit firms. And working in third-party risk, it gave me an understanding of how different companies do different things, especially around security. So it opened my mind to different things and adjusting, right? And then now taking over as client assurance, dealing with customers. So you see both sides. So even from an AI risk, you as an organization, or even like we do AI risk from obviously the end user, we do procure AI services, right? There are certain end user apps as well. But as a software vendor, we're also incorporating AI. We're not there yet, but we're working through that. So I'm looking at it both from my perspective internally, but then externally too, and then from the customer, right? Since I've did my time at obviously banking and insurance companies, I understand how they think, right? So that whole understanding holistically, that full side, both from the client and the vendor perspective, I got that. And then likewise, because I've done different roles, I was able to pivot, right? I, started my career in QA, then I went into IT audit, then I went to IT risk, then I went to becoming an ISO. So that adjustment, like there's new things are happening all the time. And with AI, it's evolving like crazy, right? I mean, you yourself are seeing so many changes, and it's constantly evolving, and being able to adjust, right? You looked at cloud, you're looking at different tools, right?
Exactly. And would it be okay to share one or two examples from an AI risk perspective in any of that sort of table sites which you mentioned, more as a vendor or as a sort of client, and like one or two key risks which you do?
Like I meant, that's something. So we're a Microsoft shop, right? We are using Copilot. From a risk perspective, we don't want a public license, right? Like we need to have an enterprise. So we do have an enterprise license, and there are security controls and guardrails in place. And we ensure that my security team, we're working through ensuring that the right things are turned on, right? Managing that. That's kind of, and then from a product perspective, I mean, I can't go into specifics, but what I can say is that we are getting stuff is coming up in contracts with our customers. So you have, for those that are not on the client-facing side, you're dealing with security addendums and schedules. And now, along with the usual security language, now I'm seeing language around artificial intelligence, right? Because obviously we are a SaaS provider. As a customer, they don't want their data to be put on large LLMs and stuff, right? They want to ensure that their data is not being used, right, or misused, right?
Got it. And this is just another angle which I never imagined like would be coming between client and vendor. This is really gold, actually. So thank you, and I do agree that this would be a huge thing. Moving on. And again, this is the research which we have done. So I know that you have organized ISACA Toronto seminar around the AI governance and monitoring very recently. And just on the back of it, wanted to double check on, like, from your perspective, what are the biggest gap in terms of governance? We talked about the risk, but then in terms of governance, what are some of the biggest gaps or blind spots which you are seeing, or based on your experience, you see that's where I see like it could be a blind spot?
Yeah, so AI is moving at a very phenomenal pace, right? I guess with technology, it's FOMO, like one organization's doing it, your rivals, you have to do it. And unfortunately, there are many organizations, maybe more in the SME space, they have no governance in place, right? They don't know how to handle it, right? They're just overwhelmed. They're understanding, okay, fine, it's there, but you know what? When the time comes, we'll deal with it. But then they may deal with some type of breach or data exposure, right? So that's huge. Other organizations, they've stood up some type of AI policy, and you'll have some type of committee, but it's just there as a check mark. It exists, but it's not very effective, right? Everyone's twiddling their thumbs, right? It's a challenging time, and then even other large organizations, they may have that, but the appropriate awareness is not there. Like, here's the policy, but no one reads it. Or, you have your annual security awareness, you're doing the check mark, I've read it, but it didn't really, people didn't understand it, right? And I think failures is many organizations are not doing proper roadshows. You might have if you're a mid-sized organization, you may have like one call, right? But to do it right, you want to do a dedicated roadshow for different organizations. Like, obviously the use case of HR would be different than finance or even in technology, there's different groups, right? I mean, the developers are looking at, AI to develop their code. They need to understand the policies, right? What is allowed, what's not allowed, right? And then you have the DevOps operational team. They want to kind of use AI, especially agentic AI, to automate a lot of their tasks around the development pipelines, right? But people are not sure, right? And then you may have the policy, and then there's others. Okay, yeah, whatever. I'm sick and tired of what security is telling me. So there's also the failure of having technical controls. Most people will do the right thing, but unfortunately, with shadow IT, there's shadow AI, right? People want to bypass that. So many organizations should have like we have a technical. I'm not going to name the vendor, but we have pre-approved tools, and there's a block list. You can't get to certain tools. That also allows the security team and other governance groups to kind of do the review. You want to use it, okay, you know what? We have to do something, right? And if there is a process around it, like here's a governance, okay, you know what? Certain risks need to be accepted, right? Or if you're using a tool that's not fully approved yet, but at least, okay, you know what? Use it in a sandbox. Use it in a limited fashion where you're not using, our data. Like for us, it's not just PI. We don't use our customer data for anything, but intellectual property is a software vendor, right? There's just many different checks and balances that need to be in place, right? But ensuring, okay, if you have the governance in place, but is actually effective, right?
Yeah. No, that makes complete sense. And what I heard over there was the key one being in some of those wild examples, like awareness was one of the key ones, which you mentioned. You also touched upon some of the policy gaps, but then at the same time, you also touched upon some of the technical controls which needs to be there to make sure the policy is there. What just
that is even logging and monitoring, right?
Correct.
So some simple tools may do a block, but that's not but what about for the ones that are valid, right? You want to ensure that you may not have the preventative control, right? But at least you have the detective control. What went wrong? And at a later point, why did you do this, right? A lot of it is just ignorance, right? Most people are not malicious. People are good people.
Exactly. No, agreed on the preventative, detective, and layering of controls part. What I did wanted to just explore a little bit more under that awareness bucket is, do you think the underlying root cause could be like a visibility is a sort of a big problem there, or is more ownership is a big problem? Because what sometimes I'm hearing with these conversations is, I think there are two buckets. Until you know it, you can't secure it, or you until you have seen it, like it's visible, you cannot sort of make plans to secure it. And then the other camp is, until you are like assign ownership, accountability for it, you cannot see it. So do you think there is an underlying sort of thread there in terms of visibility?
No, absolutely. I mean, it's both, right? You need to have the inventory of the tools, but if you don't have certain technical controls to prevent it, it's hard, right? Or maybe you may have a scanner, right? But okay, depending on if you're a Zscaler, Netscope customer, okay, you can see where the traffic is going, right? And why are you using this, right? So having an inventory is critical, because you can't secure what you can't see. You may have a predefined allow list, right? Or a block list, right? But other times, if things are open, obviously that's difficult, right? And then the other question is, okay, fine, what do you need to do, right? And that needs to be documented, okay? Like, I mean, here's the awareness. And then likewise, as I said, I kind of mentioned like roadshows, right? Yeah. Along with the policy, people need to understand and have those open conversations, right? But also as a security professional, you need to learn to listen, right? Like, okay, they have a legitimate use. You're not here to be the no, but how to do it properly, right? So that whole consulting piece is critical, right?
Yeah. No, 100% with you over there. Right. Yeah. Moving on a little bit, and I know that you've got that experience as well, that how to save the ship during sort of mergers, divestment, acquisitions from a security perspective. So just trying to explore some of that experience there, that how does the AI adoption complicate any M&A security integrations or divestiture from your perspective? And then right now, if you need to advise a CISO who is sitting at a merger acquisition sort of a deal, like either he's part of the company being acquired or company sort of acquiring someone else, what he should be sort of like, what is his number one priority from an AI security perspective?
Okay, so there's two things. You
Yeah.
either be the CEO of the parent, or the one that's doing the acquiring, or the acquiree, right? So that's two different things. Like if you're the CISO and you're doing a security review, so obviously when there's an M&A, there's certain questions. You need to ask the right questions, but I guess there's certain legal limitations too of what you can and what you can't ask, right? But you need to take into account you have pre-approved tools. Maybe you're a Microsoft shop and you're using Copilot, but the entity that you're purchasing is using Gemini, right? I mean, there's a mishmash on the tools. What about the framework? Maybe you went with NIST AI risk management framework or the EU AI Act or whatnot. But the entity that you're about to purchase is ISO 42001, right? So how do you deal with kind of that integration, like tooling, processes, right? And then like you purchase this organization, it needs to run. So you need to be realistic too, right? If they're using this product at the moment or process, you got to understand like timelines, right? Compromise assessments is a big thing, right? At times, right? So now as part of your compromise assessment, you may want to know the AI models, right? Have they been compromised? What are their security risks that I guess the security team may have either failed or didn't understand, right? That might be part of your situation. Like, I mean, what's the biggest fear as a CISO? You buy a company and you're dealing with a breach, right? And it was, right?
Yeah.
Organizations may prevent that, but a lot of that is there. Likewise, if you're the CISO of the acquired entity, maybe you want to keep your job and you'll be wanting to roll in. So you want to make sure that you obviously answer the questions as properly as possible. And you want to ensure that you can ensure that the ship will sail, right? This organization's here. We're here ensuring that you can integrate as well, right? And become part of the parent organization, right? Be clear, provide clarity, right? And ensure the right counsel, right? If you're providing a lot of value, they'll keep you and you may be integrated into the bigger organization per se, right? Especially if the organization that's being acquired, their journey around AI security and governance is much further ahead than the parent company that acquired them, right?
Now this is real gold. Like some of these perspectives I've never thought of. I'm gonna ask you because I know that just for the audience, what is compromise assessment? Like I have heard it, I have seen it happening as well, but just in layman terms.
Yeah. So compromise assessment is like a hardcore. You're looking for a breach, so you would engage a penetration testing company to do a very thorough assessment, technical assessment, and to see if there's been a breach. So many of these forensic companies do that. Typically, and not always, but a lot of times, many organizations say, okay, this is a condition, right? Well, I'm purchasing you need to do a compromise assessment, right? And then at least if something is found, then you can walk away because, there's a matter of a breach. The other issue, it also comes up with a net new CISO. I've taken over an organization. You're also worried about a breach. So you may ask, okay, what, as part of, the previous CISO may have been walked out or, they left voluntarily. You come in and you don't want that situation, right? And it also, and maybe that might be a condition, what, I'll come on board, but we need this compromise assessment. I know a lot of times internally it may not go well, right? But you want to, I think if you position it in a smart way, right, it can be managed, right? But in this way, at least things can be found. And then as part of those compromise assessments now, right, now you may need to look into AI, right? What has happened?
Exactly.
Right? Because the worst is like, okay, you start, and 6 months down the line, you're dealing with the breach, and maybe your head may roll over this.
Yeah. No, 100% aligned. And I'm just thinking, like, what about like shadow AI? How you gonna sort of even do compromise assessment in that zone? It's getting too difficult, isn't it, with all this AI complexity coming in with this then?
For sure.
Yeah. No, aligned. Moving on. I know you have spoken a lot about aligning cybersecurity with business objectives. And again, I'll keep it to the AI track. So when it comes to AI adoption, how do you think from a how do you think a balance between enabling the business to move fast with the AI adoption, but then at the same time managing the risk could be established? So how do you sort of, in your experience, how best the balance could be achieved?
I think you have to be realistic as well, right? At the end of the day, AI is here to stay. Organizations need to look at different efficiencies. I mean, before you were doing a lot of outsourcing, that's there as well. But they're looking at using these tools to ensure your go to market, or even just if you're an organization, even in the public sector, you're looking for effective things. You want to ensure that you have the appropriate governance and risk management in place, right? Ultimately, you're a security professional. You may find certain risks, and then you have a process around, even with AI, like who's going to accept certain risks, right? The business may push forward with something, and then depending on the level of that risk. So just a lot of times people look at AI security and risk, in a different lens, but the fundamentals are still the same, right? You want to ensure that things are moving. You don't want to be that department of no, right? Unfortunately, a lot of times security has that reputation, right, across many organizations. So you want to ensure that you're there to kind of really recognize the risk, but also provide solutions. Okay, you know what? This may not be the best idea, but here are potential alternatives, right? Or, okay, you know what? Here's something that may be risky, but this is less risky, or why don't we implement this, right?
Got it.
Like, I mean, as I said, like the guardrail, right? Okay, you're using this, but you know what? We need logging and monitoring in place, right? How do you manage that, right?
No, makes sense. Makes sense, because ultimately it's like business owners really know how to do the business, and it's sort of security's job to sort of just put the light on the blind spots, tell them that this is what can go wrong, but these are the guardrails we can fix, and you can still sort of keep driving the car at sort of 100
And
miles.
use and I forgot to add is that, like, use either ISO 42001, NIST RMF. I mean, if in Europe there's the EU AI Act, right? So that also helps kind of, okay, in the end of the day, within business, they don't like regulations, but they have to align to it, right?
Exactly.
You can say a lot, but if there's a regulatory issue, then it has to align, right?
Yeah.
The hands are tied.
Yeah. No, 100% agree. Yeah. And I know you've mentioned about this before, like when you started introducing, but I know you have got really solid experience in the area and third-party risk management, and I know the whole supply chain AI risk management is a very big topic right now as well. So just trying to explore a little bit more over there. So obviously, as AI is being added into the mix, and vendor enabling, sort of suddenly the AI chatbot, it's appearing in your SaaS products, or teams are deploying for customers, sort of like local LLMs, and both in terms of vendor adding AI features, and then sort of as a customer whose vendor is adding these, how do you see the whole supply chain risk being transformed? And the second is, how do you then manage? And what level till you go? Like, is it the third party? Is it the fourth? Is it the fifth? And what is the rationale you think how to manage it overall?
Yeah, no, this is a challenging question for sure. With third-party risk, there's the questionnaires, right? You're going to be obviously updating your questionnaires to take into effect, okay, around your own risk, right? Especially around your data, activities, et cetera. I know in the past there was the shared, the SIG, right? I'm forgetting what the acronym stands for, right? But they've also updated it for, that was a very common one that a lot of the banks use. Now a lot of them have moved to others, but a lot of them still use that, right? Standard information gathering questionnaire, right? It also has an AI domain. And then likewise, along with the questionnaire, I meant that, that trust but verify. So how do you get information, right? Or validate, okay, you're saying you have this, maybe now you need to share policies, right? Maybe you need to share some type of controls. Like if you have a monitoring tool, you'll be doing that. So I said a lot of that's still the same, but now you're looking at it from an AI lens, right? They may look for certifications, right? Are you ISO 42001 certified? If your external pen test, does it cover AI properly, right? Are you doing that, right? You'll have contractual clauses too, right? To ensure you're covered. Okay, you know what? If you're adding AI, you need to notify us or you're breaking your contractual obligation, right? Like, I mean, obviously you can't do that to the Microsofts or others, right? Take it or leave it. But I mean, a lot of these startups or, mid-size or other firms, right? I mean, they'll abide by, especially if it's a large banking institution, large enterprise customers, which 10,000 plus, seats, right? They have a lot of leverage, right? The scoping, a lot of those controls, how do you analyze it? I mean, it's challenging. Like I'm on obviously the vendor side, right? So we'll be seeing different things, right? And we have global customers, so there's laws in Europe are different than the Far East or North America, right? They look at it from a different lens, right?
Yeah.
But it's just and it's evolving, right?
Yeah.
You just have to adjust to it.
And if I ask you your point of view, just based on your experience, do you think there is any value in moving towards, because I think the whole questionnaire point, what I hear in the industry as well is around point in time checking whether you have the policy or show me at that point how the control was operating. Do you think with AI, with whole AI agents, there is some potential in the future where this could transform into more continuous monitoring, where the customer is monitoring continuously some of the parameters at the vendor, or you find it difficult?
I think there'll likely be some type of continuous monitoring, but as a vendor, you can't have like continuous customized one for each one, right? Like how would you manage that, right? And they're changing things, so they'd have to come up with some type of standard, right, on how to do this, right?
Yeah.
Because even like implementations, there's some unique stuff, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I see it would come up, but I don't know how, right?
Yeah. It could be like a SOC report, but more in the AI agent format, which is like real live updating itself.
Yeah, but then how would you know that there wasn't data point? I mean, sometimes the vendor could play games, right?
Yeah.
Right, they can kind of, how would you know that it's effective? It's just, it's tricky until like there's a standard, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I think you're right. Until there is a goalpost, like a standard, that's what you want to achieve in that way. No aligned with it. And I know, just continuing from there, I know you have also presented at the RSAC conference as well, which is a topic related to sort of cybersecurity audits. And I think you had a model which you presented. So could that model be applied to how the vendor risk could be assessed from a customer point of view based on that model?
So right now it's a little bit of a tricky time because everyone is kind of everywhere, right? Like even like I've worked at banks in the past, you may use the ISO 42001 or NIST AI RMF or the other ones, right? OASP has their LLM top 10, et cetera, but obviously for your own environment, you do tweaks. No one does it 100%, right? Typically, unless you're certified, right? And I know the NIST AI, it's not prescriptive, right? I think for an industry, it's plausible that it could be done, but I mean, you'd have to get buy-in, right? Like when I did it, I mean, I was able to get buy-in from a number of customers. The baseline was a SIG, and then we customized based on other customers different requirements, right?
Mm.
I think part of it is relationship management, understanding it, but I would see this happening, but it's a tricky one. It's going to take some time until a lot of these organizations have mature AI risk management processes, right? Because until their frameworks are mature, right, they're kind of in the air as well, right? Understanding this.
Yeah. No, makes sense. And if let's say if there are CISOs, which are, because right now with AI a lot of companies are being built up, they're suddenly getting big and suddenly selling into sort of big Fortune 500s or sort of big companies. And obviously those are more software based companies, so the CISO has to make sure that the clients in those enterprises are happy from a data assurance or data processing, what they are doing as a vendor for their customers. If you have to tell them, like from your perspective, this is the golden advice for a CISO who's operating in that zone, trying to give client assurance in terms of data, like what you mentioned, like client's data is not being fed into AI for training and testing purposes. What are the guardrails you would tell them, or what is the few things you're going to tell them as advice? How can they make sure that the client remains happy, the client assurance gets through, that yeah, their data is secure with the vendor?
So you may start off with white papers, right? If you're trying to get certifications right now, ISO 42001, right? You may have answered the questionnaires, at least it holds some weight, right? You have an external party that certified you, right? It's each one has its unique questions and concerns. A lot of it is like, you'll have those discussions, and like we do a lot of customer assurance, and I have a team that deals with customer trust, where we have answers, explanations. Part of it is audits, right? Like, okay, that trust but verify. Okay, you're telling me this, so come over, or you have your annual audit, right? Audit us, right? And if there's things that are potentially, maybe it's not on the standard, but the bank may have added something, right? Especially when you're dealing with customer audits, or it's not even really an audit, because at least with the audit, you know what you're coming into. But when the customers do their audit or risk assessment, right? And a lot of times it's like a Wild West in a way, right? They'll ask whatever. So you want to ensure that, okay, fine, if there's something that needs to be remediated, we'll work for it, right? If it's a contractual obligation, we'll do it. If it's not a contractual obligation, sometimes in good faith, it makes sense. But if you're asking for something that we normally don't do, then here's your statement of work, we'll do it. But if you're the only one asking, right, then you'll have to pay for it, right?
Yeah. No, makes sense. And just on the back of it, because I'm seeing there's a lot of startups popping, and there's a lot of sort of startups becoming sort of medium-sized businesses in this software arena with AI coming in. And I think most of them are trying to get like SOC 2 certifications and trying to then show to the customer that they're SOC 2 certified, so all good, all perfect. You have any thoughts over there? Just getting a SOC 2, does it fix everything from a security point of view in this day and age? Or
well, I think like your customer questionnaires will not go away even if you have a SOC, right? It will help answer them, right? If you're dealing with customer audits, they may descope things. Right now, for like the SOC, like they don't have a specific control area for AI. Like you may have, IAM, change management, whatever, right? The physical security, DR, et cetera, or availability, right? I know the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, AICPA, they're looking into AI. Haven't made changes to the standard, but I suspect that, for the SOC 2 has 5 trust principles, confidentiality, integrity, availability, privacy, and process integrity. I'm assuming I wouldn't be surprised if a 6th trust principle comes about, right, around AI, right? That's possible, right? I think they're exploring that. Alternatively, if they don't add an additional trust principle, they may create the domain, right, of AI, right? Especially around, like a SOC 1. There's an aspect around, your financial reporting, Now with AI, I mean, if you have agents and stuff doing some type of processing or agenda, you want to ensure especially the integrity of those financial numbers, right? We don't want another end run. So I'm sure that something will come about, but I don't know. Which I'm not a practicing chartered accountant or a CPA in North America, right? To know these things, I'm not privy to that, but I suspect something will come, but when, I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, it does make sense. It does. Um, Moving on, I know you also participated in the RSA 365 sort of panel discussion, and I think you spoke about intersection of AI and security leadership. If you want to give just a whistle stop tour and sort of 2 to 3 key bullets of what should audience who would be mostly security leaders, CISO, should get out of that, how would you summarize?
I would say, if you look at it from that perspective, okay, so data privacy and security, right? I mean, that's, you want to ensure that the data protection measures are in place, right? Do we have a data lifecycle on the data sets on the LLMs, right? I mean, is everything being handled in a legal and regulatory manner, as well as even a contractual manner? Maybe there's no, regulatory rules, right? Are the appropriate guardrails in place? And then we're maybe looking at just personally identifiable information or personal health information, which is even more sensitive. But what about your own internally, like your intellectual property, right? Like we're as a company, we develop software solutions. We don't want a situation where staff are, maybe asking certain questions and they're exposing our internal information, right? Or even our strategic plans, right? You meant executives maybe doing a prompt, right, on a public service, right? So that aspect is huge, right, around AI risk, right? And then the other aspect is that human oversight and accountability, right? I mean, you may have these agentic AI, right? They're working through doing decisions, but ultimately you need to have some human oversight. If AI does something wrong, who's ultimately accountable, right? You need to have some type of workflow and maybe ownership, right? You are responsible for this, right? And if someone as a human takes responsibility, then obviously they'll reduce the likelihood of errors, right? Because I mean their neck is on the line, right? Like also it's just similar to when you're outsourcing, right? In the end of the day, your customer, you're responsible to your customer, even if whichever outsourcing vendor you used, right? They may have screwed up, may have had a breach, they have an outage, but you're going to go. The customer is going to be, you're the throat to choke, right?
Exactly, because they need someone's throat to choke. So.
Yeah, so that human oversight, like, here's a machine or whatnot, AI, but yeah, that human oversight and accountability along with data privacy and security, those are the 2 things, right?
Understood. Yeah. I know we might be soon running out of time, so I'm just going to be really, really quick because I do want to get out everything what I can from you. So. And this is different angle from an AI governance point of view, because there is a community which is talking about there are a lot of things which are over engineered right now in the AI governance arena. Do you think, do you agree with them at all? And if you are, then what do you think which is being over engineered and which can wait, basically?
Well, I'll put it in you have these policies, right, in place, but you need to know when to apply it. And I think the mistake of some organizations may make is that, okay, I could be a developer or someone, and I want to look at a certain product. Well, if I'm doing a proof of concept, right, is it even feasible? You may not want to do the governance policies and all that place yet. Right, I'm not dealing with any of our customer data or our internal data, right? I'm doing it in a sandbox environment, right? You don't want to just throw out all of these governance frameworks. You got to do it this way. And okay, you know what? Maybe that POC could have ran for a month, and they're just trying to understand the technical feasibility. And in that month, they would have just said, you know what? I want to walk away. This doesn't make sense. And then if you add all these other governance things that could turn a POC that went from 30 days to 90 days, right? You spent 90 days, the answer will still be, the outcome is, okay, you know what, this is not viable, but you wasted a lot of time, right? So trying to ensure that the governance, you don't want to over-engineer or use heavy processes where it's like it wasn't needed, right? So having that, ensuring the appropriate processes in place when it's needed, right? Like you don't want to. That's the other. Like if you make it too rigorous and things are over engineered, then you're dealing with shadow IT or shadow AI. Why is that happening? They want to bypass controls, right? So you want to be a partner and not a blocker, right?
Yeah.
That goes back to it. Okay, where does it make sense, right? Okay, just do your POC, keep it limited, right? If it makes sense, then okay, now security is going to come in, because along with that, you may have done one use case, but obviously, if you're going to do AI tool, I mean, there's going to be multiple use cases, right?
No, makes sense. Second last question, and then there will be a final question from the last guest. If you are sitting across to a peer, to a CISO, who is sort of a similar organizations like yourself, dealing with similar complexities like yourselves, what are the two things you're going to tell him to look out for the next 24 months? Like, what are the two things?
I would say ensure that you choose some type of framework. Don't go with a mishmash. Things are changing a lot, and okay, if you're an ISO, just stick with ISO. If you want to do NIST, stick with NIST. If you're doing a mishmash with all the changes, it creates a lot of complications, right? As you're evolving the program, just try to keep it focused, right? And then likewise, don't make it overbearing, right? Like that's the whole point. Even what I mentioned before is like, okay, if you have something overriding and it's overcomplicated, and internally you will not be part of on the table, right? Discussing these things will be hidden. You know what? This is not within InfoSec, right? They're holding things off, and then they may just buy it, use it, and then it's too late. Okay, you know what? You should have done it this way, right? So you want to ensure that you are a business enabler, right?
Yeah.
Even with AI, right?
Yeah. No, makes sense. I think the last one really makes sense. Like, do it in a more chunkable, bite-size way rather than just over-engineering, overdoing it so that you can't even finish it off. So that's what I'm taking away. It really makes sense, actually. Right. We've gone to the sort of the final section where this question is not by me, so I'm not the culprit. This is left by Chris Neal. He's based out of Australia, Group CISO for Ramsay Healthcare, and we have this tradition of like the CISO which comes on the pod. He leaves a question for the next guest. So once you answer this, you have the opportunity for leaving a question for the next guest. So the question is, current generative AI models are essentially synthesizing existing human knowledge or the knowledge which they have been trained on, which is already created. In some cases, identifying patterns humans have already spotted or not spotted yet. But they are not essentially creating the new knowledge or net new knowledge. Do you think we will get to a point where the AI models are generating the new knowledge, like genuinely new knowledge, which humans have never known? Not just the remix of whatever the training data has been, but something completely new. Do you think we will get to a point? And this is completely obscure question, I know.
Yeah, that's a very difficult question. I think in the end of the day, knowledge is an iterative process, right? And probably a simple example is obviously, there was mathematics. I mean, you can't do physics without math, right? And the building blocks of math went into physics, and then you can't do engineering without physics, right? So knowledge is an iterative process. Even with scientists now doing a lot of their R&D with AI, right, and training the models to do a lot of that new knowledge. Can AI develop something net new? I don't know. Not in the short term, right? That could be. It's so difficult to kind of understand where technology is going, right? Is it possible? Everything is plausible. That one, I don't know.
Yeah.
But as I said, whatever knowledge we have throughout, thousands of years, everything is built on things that people discovered before, right?
Yeah. No, I agree, and I think your rationale 100% makes sense. Like everything is built on that physics and mathematics, and they are the building block, and they have been already created. So whatever is being created is the basis, sort of those. So I think I agree with you over there. Now it's your turn to leave a question. The only restriction is it has to be in the AI domain, but it can be
Yeah.
anything.
Right. Yeah. So I guess my next question is right now, top of mind is obvious within AI is agentic AI as well as generative AI, right? And for the next person, what is that? What is the comparable thing that's going to come next around AI?
Right. Yeah.
That would be interesting to know, right?
Yeah.
What's the next thing?
Yeah. This is really interesting, open-ended question. Um, yeah, I have taken a note of it. This brings us to the end of this sort of podcast and discussion series recording. Thanks a lot, Arif. I think everything in there, each and every word is real good, is a diamond come out from like I don't know how hard work and knowledge in your past experience, and really thank you to share with us that knowledge. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure being on your show. Thanks for reaching out.
Thank you, Arif. Cheers and have a good day.
Yeah, thanks.